Eric, we just finished watching the president's remarks along with David Muir and those families speaking out tonight. And we have assembled a great group of community members tonight. We have members of the church, law enforcement, concerned citizens, parents, all here responding and reacting to the division in our country, what's happening right now, the unrest. And I don't know about all of you, but just seeing the images of family members crying and just torn up for their loved one who is no longer here, you know, whether it's Alton Sterling's child or whether it's the family members of a Dallas officer shot and killed by a sniper. All this violence, it's hard to watch the pain on those people's faces. So as we begin this conversation, I think, Laurie Valdez, I think I would like to begin with you because you are in a unique position. If you could tell everyone what happened to your partner and just give your thoughts on your reaction to what you heard the president say.
Okay. My name is Laurie Valdez, and I'm the organizer of Justice for Josiah. And how it came to be Just for Josiah is for my 4-year-old son, whose father was shot in the back twice by San Jose State University Police Department, killing him, leaving my family totally devastated, but most of all my children, my son who was his father, but my daughter who he raised since she was 3 years old. My children have been left in trauma in the aftermath of the injustice and the re-traumatization every time we see it on TV. My children can't heal. My son cries. He was 4 years old. And it hurts me as a mother, as a parent. How can I fix his broken heart? How can I tell him to trust somebody who took his father's life? It's hard. He was 4. He doesn't understand death, so he'll cry. Mommy, I want my daddy. I can't take him to the doctor, so it hurts me. I don't want another child to go through this. My son will not heal from this ever, because if there's no accountability and we continue to allow things to be kept from the public view, like the officers in our case, they both had body cameras. To this day, they have never been made public. They have them on a gag order. So to me, I see it from the point of view that if they have nothing to hide, why not release the videos? Why continue to not let my kids know? They've said so many stories about his father. And it hurts because the way they did things, the officer's always the victim, and they always acted in fear. And fear should not be the driving force for them, because our children, we need to end that violence because they're being exposed to it. My son's traumatized when he goes to school and he acts out, like he has already had some incidents where his friends told him, Josiah, where's your daddy? The cops killed him. First thing that came out of the kid's mouth, your daddy must have been a bad person because that's all cops kill. My son was 4 years old and he had to defend his dad's honor, say, no, my daddy wasn't bad. He just spoke Mexican, meaning Spanish. My son didn't want to go to school because he was the weird kid in school, because he was the only one that didn't have a dad. This year for Father's Day, all the kids were making Father's Day presents. They did a book, my father and I, where they had to draw and write stuff about them. He only drew a picture of him and his dad, what he remembers. She turned the pages. My dad and I like to eat blank. My dad and I like to play blank. Every page after that was blank, and he came home and I knew something was bothering him, and I asked him, what's wrong, baby? Nothing. I let him go. That evening he comes, opens his backpack and throws it on the table, says, this is stupid. I don't want going to school no more. I don't know why I have to do this. The violence that our children are exposed to in our schools and the community by police needs to be fixed because it is more detrimental. Because there's never we're the families, when we're affected, we're the families left in the shadows that nobody wants to talk about or deal with, suffering trauma of the aftermath. We're not offered services. I feel for the nobody should take another person's life, but I feel for the officers when their wives, when they lose somebody. Okay, I feel bad for them, but they get help. The community embraces them. They're heroes. Their children are set up funds. They get money, stuff. What do my kids get? They can't even get on the police report for their father to have victim, where he's the victim instead of the officer. So the victim witness program can offer us help for anything, mental counseling, whatever. We're not offered that. My son is little. There he is right over there. He should, all our children, if we can't save our children being exposed to the violence in our communities, and that means by the ones who are supposed to be role models. What kind of a role model are they to kids who are being exposed? Plus, we're just like blowing them off, like, you don't matter, we killed your dad and we're not going to help you deal with it. He's put at that place where everybody wants to say at risk kid. No kid's at risk. Every child that acts out has been traumatized by violence in the community, and we need to stop addressing kids as at risk. They're traumatized. Instead of traumatizing them more, let's help them before they become the broken men that are doing the crimes. We're doing things backward. We're putting laws and bullying laws and all these really harsh things on our kids, punishing them for what adults are doing in our community. We need to, that Defending Childhood initiative, I hope President Obama goes and Loretta Lynch goes. They need to readdress that Defending Childhood initiative to end violence for our children. They didn't address the violence the police do, and they need to, because that needs to be added. If not, then we need to just dismantle, and we need to start. We can't fix what's broken, and we all know it's broken. So we need to start fresh and new, and we need to focus on our children and our youth. My son is not going to be the statistic, and that's what hurts me, is nobody cares. Nobody. I didn't even get like the way the president said, show compassion. I feel sorry for the cops, but I've never heard an officer's wife say, I'm sorry, your son has, or even officer, we didn't really want to do that. We wish we didn't have to do that. Not that it would make it hurt less, but show that compassion. We're humans too. My son is human and he suffers. But nobody cares about my son because he's not a cop's son. And that's not right. He deserves to be taken care of so he doesn't become that broken man. So if my son, and whatever he becomes, broken or successful, it'll depend on the community that embraces him. Now, as his mother, I try to instill good values in my son and not to be afraid of cops. But with everything he sees and how cops, you know what he told me recently? He wanted to be a cop, and I was shocked and asked him why. He said, I want to be a cop so I could kill all the bad cops. That scared me. And I said, Papa, you can't do that. I go, but there's good cops. He goes, yeah, but the good cops will end up being bad cops because the bad cops always win. That's what they did.
I'd like to maybe give perhaps Chief Brown here a chance to respond. I know your officers are out trying to serve and protect people in the community and help the situation.
Yeah, so first I just want to say I'm sorry for your loss. It's difficult. Anybody loses a loved one, and I think that's something, just losing a loved one is something that everybody can relate to. And the more tragic the death, the more painful, which touches a lot of people, including myself. So, I mean, I recognize that, good policing is really what protects democracy. And what we've been working on year over year in Richmond is we've been trying to improve the way that we go about doing policing. We've paid really close attention to what modern and best practices are across the country. We have grabbed the things that we feel like fit our communities in Richmond. Richmond's has very diverse, unique, and individual neighborhoods, and we've tailored that stuff in a mix with technology, and of course who you hire and the folks that we get are pretty important, working in cooperation with communities. So we feel like the foundation of good, effective constitutional policing is strong police and community partnerships. And so we do have organized neighborhoods across Richmond, and we do aim to keep our police officers working in the same neighborhoods for longer periods of time. We encourage them to get to know the characteristics of the neighborhood, get to know people, interact with them, and build relationships. And we feel like that's probably the most important component of some of the successes that we've had in terms of making Richmond safer. The truth is that community safety is not just the job for the police; it's everybody's responsibility. And I feel like we've been able to demonstrate, that is the case in Richmond. And then, what I think my responsibility is to make sure that we perpetuate building a police force with good police officers who are hired and screened properly, who get the proper training, current up-to-date training. They're given the proper tools and equipment to do the job, and that training is recurrent. So, a big part of the national conversation has been around police officer use of force, and especially deadly force. And we get it that the community standard, for how officers use deadly force is a lot tighter than maybe the legal standard under Graham v. Connor, and that's an area where we have to work. We feel like the pathway to start to get there really does start with open communication and dialogue that goes, in multiple directions. At least if we can talk to and listen to each other, there's a place to broaden perspectives on all sides of the issue, and we can find a way forward. So we're sensitive to those things. Screening and hiring the right folks who enter the profession for the right reasons. But we do get them from the general population. They don't come from a special planet. They're not exactly superheroes. And so strong policies, checks and balances, things like a step we took this year was to step out on our internal affairs process. We have what's called an Office of Professional Accountability. We did a national search, brought in a civilian to manage that function. In California, all police departments have to have a process for investigating citizens' complaints. We've moved ours out of police headquarters down to City Hall, and we have it managed by a civilian manager who happens to be an attorney. That gives us another layer of impartiality when it comes to investigating these things. Richmond is in Contra Costa County, and Contra Costa County has a protocol that deals with officer-involved shootings and fatal incidents. And so what happens is if there is an incident like that in our county, the DA's office comes in and they lead those investigations, again, to be impartial eyes, and they come to, whatever finding they come to, wherever the evidence takes them. And as I've interacted with my colleagues across the country and up and down the state, that's a pretty solid model. It's a pretty good model that other places are looking at, and that's something that we've had in place in our county for 30 years.